Hello students, welcome to English class. Today we are going to learn an imaginary story. And the title of our story is Feathered Friend, written by Sir Arthur Charles Clarke. So before going to the story, let's familiarize with the author. Sir Arthur Charles Clarke, 1917 to 2008. And he was a British science fiction writer and a television series host. And he was a popularizer of space travel. And he wrote over a dozen books and many essays. And he was rightly called the prophet of the space age. So that's all about the author. Now let's begin the story. Feathered Friend. So, have you ever heard about a space station? This is the picture of a space station. And a space station is a spacecraft capable of supporting crew members and designed to remain in space for an extended period of time and for other spacecraft to dock. So, here it means a space station in space, and it is a spacecraft where the crew members stay there for a period of time and learn about space. Whereas other spacecraft to dock means two spacecraft can come in one place and can exchange studies. The International Space Station is the only operational manned space station currently in orbit. Space stations are used to study the effect of long term spaceflight on the human body. They also serve as a platform for extended scientific studies. Each crew member stays aboard the station for weeks or months, but rarely more than a year. Space stations have been used for both military and civilian purposes. So, here our lesson start when the narrator finds a cannery in the spacecraft where they are present, and the narrator is surprised to discover a cannery in the space station. So before starting our lesson, let's discuss about the characters. First character is Sven Olsen, who is a construction worker in space, and second one is Claribel. Claribel is a small yellow colory bird, and third one is narrator, who is narrating or worker in the space station, and fourth one is Jim. Jim is another worker who look after technical devices in technical department. So we are going to learn about a canary bird. Have you seen a canary bird? A canary is a very small yellow colory bird, and it sings very sweetly. So we are going to understand what this canary bird did in this story. So here we are talking about the International Space Station, and the people are inside that. Astronauts are there, scientists are there, and a lot of people are working inside the space station. And there is no gravity inside the space station, and we don't have the gravitational pull. If we have only gravitational pull, only we can stand on foot. So when we are outside that, then we keep flying around. So now imagine if a bird is going inside that and it is getting stuck inside the space station, how it will manage to live. Let us find out from this chapter how this canary bird is getting inside and who bought it. So it was Sven Olsen, and this canary is his pet, and he wanted to try something. He wanted to experiment that can birds live inside the space station just like human beings. Let's begin the story. The narrator is surprised to discover a canary in the space station. But how did it get there? Read on to find out. To the best of my knowledge, there's never been a rule that forbids one to keep pets in a space station. And even had such a rule existed, I am quite certain that Sven Olsen would have ignored it. But I must admit that his selection was very sensible. Claribel weighed practically nothing. Her food requirements were minimal, and she was not worried as most animals would have been by the absence of gravity. So, here the narrator was surprised to see a canary in a space station, and he was quite certain that one of his crew members, called Sven Olsen, had brought this bird while coming from Earth in a spacecraft to the space station. But he did not say anything to Sven because he knew that carrying a pet like a bird canary was not at all a problem. And of course, there had been no rule that nobody can bring a pet to the space station. And then to a pet like canary, a small bird, not at all a problem because its weight is almost nothing and requirements are minimum. And the most important thing was that bird has adjusted itself to the surrounding in zero gravity. I first became aware that Claribel was aboard the space station when I was sitting in my office, checking through my list to decide what items we would be running out of next. When I heard the musical whistle beside my ear, I assumed that it had come over the station intercom and waited for an announcement to follow. It didn't. Instead, there was a long and involved pattern of melody that made me look up with such a start. It was then that I had my first view of Claribel. So, for the first time, the narrator saw this bird when he was sitting in his office, and he heard the peeping and whistling of that bird, and he was surprised, very much surprised. She was a small yellow canary, hanging in the air as motionless as a hummingbird, and with much less effort, with her wings were quietly folded along her sides. We started at each other for a minute. Then, before I had quite recovered my wits, she did a curious kind of backward loop no earthbound canary had ever managed and departed with a few leisurely flicks. It was quite obvious that she had already learned how to operate in the absence of gravity and did not believe in doing unnecessary work. Then, what he saw the bird, he found that it was a small yellow canary bird, motionless, simply floating in zero gravity, and it was so pretty. Swen didn't confess to her ownership for several days, and by that time it no longer mattered because Claribel was a general pet. He had smuggled her upon the last ferry from Earth. When he came back from leave partly, he claimed out of sheer scientific curiosity, and he wanted to see just how a bird would operate when it had no weight but could still use its wings. So then what happened? For the next few days, Sven did not confess at all that he was the one to bring the canary to the space station, and there was a scientific curiosity behind it. He just wanted to know that how the bird would behave in zero gravity when it would have no weight. At the same time, it can use its wings. That was the reason why he carried the bird canary to the space station. Claribel thrived and grew healthy. On the whole, we had little trouble concealing our unauthorized guests when VIPs from Earth came visiting. A space station has more hiding places that you can count. The only problem was that Claribel got rather noisy when she was upset. We sometimes had to think fast to explain the curious peeps and whistles that came from ventilating shafts and storage bulkheads. There were a couple of narrow escapes, but then who would dream of looking for a canary in a space station? But later it was revealed that it was Sven was the one to bring that bird to the space station, and the crew members became very friendly with the canary. And the only problem was to hide the bird when some of the VIPs from the Earth come to visit the space station. That was not a problem because a space station has many ventilating shafts and storage spaces where they can hide the bird. Only the problem was whenever canary got upset, it create noise. But the crew members was enough smart to handle the situation, so they can manage the situation very well. We were now on 12-hour watches, though of course there is no day and night. When you are floating in permanent sunlight, it was still convenient to stick to the term. Certainly, when I woke up that morning, it felt like 6 a.m. on Earth. I had a nagging headache and bad memories of fitful, disturbed dreams. It took me ages to undo my bunk straps, and I was still only half awake when I joined the remainder of the duty crew in the mess. Breakfast was unusually quiet, and there was one seat vacant. Where is Sven? I asked. He is looking for Claribel, someone answered. Says he can't find her anywhere. She usually wakes him up. Now, it was a time when they were experiencing sunlight for 12 watch hours. The narrator, one day he woke up late in the morning, almost at 6 o'clock, and he could not sleep well because he had headache, and he got up from his place, and he went to the mess, and he asked for Sven, and somebody answered that Sven was looking for Claribel. Claribel means canary. Claribel was missing. Before I could retort that she usually woke me up to, Sven came in through the doorway. He could see at once that something was wrong. He slowly opened his hand, and there lay a tiny bundle of yellow feathers with two clenched claws sticking pathetically up into the air. So then he saw Sven arrived there carrying Claribel in his palm. Claribel was lying motionless, and everybody was sad to see Claribel motionless. What happened? We asked, all equally distressed. I don't know, said Sven mournfully. I just found her like this. We all waited in hushed silence while he held Claribel against his ear in an attempt to detect any heartbeat. Presently, he shook his head. I can't hear anything, but that doesn't prove she is dead. I have never listened to a canary's heart, he added rather apologetically. Give her a shot of oxygen, suggested somebody, pointing to the green banded emergency cylinder beside the door. Everyone agreed that this was an excellent idea, and Claribel was tucked snugly into a face mask that was large enough to serve as a complete oxygen tent for her. To our delighted surprise, she revived at once. Beaming broadly, Sven removed the mask and she hopped onto his finger. She gave her a series of sharp drills, then promptly keeled over again. So nobody was sure whether she got unconscious or she was dead. So somebody suggested that give her some oxygen, and oxygen was given to Claribel. And surprisingly, Claribel was revived, and she gave whistling and peeping. So everybody was happy and calm. I don't get it, lamented Sven. What's wrong with her? She's never done this before. For the last few minutes, something had been tugging at my memory. My mind seemed to be sluggish that morning, as if I was still unable to cast off the burden of sleep. I felt that I could do with some of that oxygen. But before I could reach the mask, understanding exploded in my brain. I whirled on the duty engineer and said urgently, Jim, there is something wrong with the air. That's why Claribel passed out. I have just remembered that miners used to carry canaries down to warn them off. Yes. So everybody was happy and calm, but our narrator, he was not feeling active, and he also wanted oxygen mask. Suddenly, he remembered something. His mind worked, and he understood that there must be a trouble in the air, and that was the reason why Claribel got unconscious. Quickly, he ran to the technical staff, their engineer Jim, to check the situation. Nonsense, said Jim. The alarms would have gone off. We have got duplicate circuit operating independently. The second alarm circuit is not connected up yet, his assistant reminded him. But Jim was very much confident about the alarm, but his assistant reminded him that the circuit for the second alarm was not connected. That shook Jim. He left without a word while we stood arguing and passing the oxygen bottle around like a pipe of peace. He came back 10 minutes later with a sheepish expression. It was one of those accidents that couldn't possibly happen. We had one of our rare eclipses by Earth's shadow that night. Part of the air purifier had frozen up, and the single alarm in the circuit had failed to go off. $500,000 worth of chemical and electronic engineering had let us down completely. Without Claribel, we should soon have been slightly dead. So what was saying was. Then Jim immediately rushed checked the situation. After 10 minutes, he came back and told that last night they had a rare eclipse caused by a shadow of the earth, and that frozen the air purifier, and it may be deadly accident for all. Our cannery proved to build a lifesaver for all of them. So here the narrator remembered that the miners, they generally used to carry a cannery down to the mines to get the warning of gas, and here too he applied the same thing, and cannery proved to be helpful to entire crew members. And Jim said $500,000 worth of chemicals and technical equipments failed, and the warning alarm failed, but the tiny little bird cannery helped everyone to save their lives. So now if you visit any space station, don't be surprised if you hear an inexplicable snatch of birdsong. There is no need to be alarmed. On the contrary, in fact, it will mean that you are being doubly safeguarded at particularly no extra expense. So the narrator says finally that from next time, whenever you visit a space station, if you hear a song of a bird peeping or humming, then you should understand that you are getting double safety with no cost at all. So, that's all about the story. Thank you.